It is Friday, boys and girls, and you know what that means. The weekend is almost here. Woo! But it also means that it's time for a new episode. Welcome back to Sports and Other Things of the Sort. I am Lucas Stein, and man, this past month has been exhaustingly long. I have been somewhat sick since February 13th, and it just hasn't gone away fully, so that's been annoying, and life has just been busy. So if you've been wondering where I've been, social media-wise, stop, because it doesn't matter. I have lives to live. Yes, that's lives, plural, and I can't always post about the happenings in and around the sports world because I am not by my phone all the time. I don't know what to tell you. However, things should be clearing up as we get to the latter half of March, so I will most likely be more active in the near future, but I might not. Who knows? Okay, I'm done with that. Don't forget to follow or subscribe, and of course, always respect each other. Today, we are talking about coaches. What about them? We're mainly talking about the difference a good coach can make, but also that it can't always be a coach's fault. So, I wanted to get on here to share the importance of coaches because, especially in the professional world of things, I think coaches get underappreciated and are oftentimes used as the scapegoat for why a team is doing bad, but we'll get to that last point later. I think a great coach is someone who teaches by example. Too often when people quote-unquote teach, they just tell you what to do. They tell you how to shoot the ball. Grab the ball and put it in the hoop. Or they tell you how to swing the bat. Grab the handle and hit the ball. A good coach breaks it down. Shows you proper hand placement or technique. They give you drills to help with the feel of shooting a ball. And most importantly, they truly fix mistakes. They don't just tell you to do it again until you do it right. They tell you what you did wrong and what to think so that you don't do it wrong again. Another good quality to have in a coach is a coach that blends strictness with patience. What I mean is that a coach should strive for the best out in their players. Obviously, they need to hold their players accountable, but you shouldn't be down the players' throats if they make one mistake. Yes, you need to acknowledge that mistake, but running players to death over one missed play, especially in a practice, isn't coaching. Mistakes are bound to happen in anything. Baseball has a stat for mistakes. They're called errors. Football has a stat for mistakes, fumbles and interceptions. Yes, I understand that a fumble or interception doesn't necessarily mean mistake, but it can. Mistakes are a part of sports. If you punish players for screwing up once, speaking from an eyewitness account here, it causes players to play more reserved because they don't want to make that same mistake again. Now, sometimes players play even better because they know what to work on and what to fix, but that is very rare in my experience. I think as a coach, getting mad at mistakes is normal and right. It's when you punish every mistake that it becomes more of a punishment to go to practice. So, in summary, to be a good coach, you need a few things. First, you need to teach by example and through breaking down the fundamentals. Second, you have to hold your players accountable. And third, give players a little grace, discipline-wise, even through mistakes. Whoa. Stop. Guys, there's a second part to this episode. There's a second part? Yeah, dude, I talked about it in the intro. Remember I said I'd get to it later? Do you really expect a drummer and a bassist to pay attention? And a tambourine. Shut up, Craig. Good Lord. Who hired that guy? Anyways, yes, there is a second part to this episode. I couldn't have an episode about coaches and not talk about the professional coaches. So, listen. There seems to be a theme with coaches as of late and the executives that hire them. I call it the hire-fire method. See, a lot of teams seem to think that hiring a new coach means instant success, and if they don't produce that instant success, they are canned. Or hired and fired. Get it? Ha-ha! Anyways, the biggest thing and the biggest part I hate about this is that the media and fans alike never like to hold their favorite stars accountable. It's always someone else's fault. Let me tell you something, brother. The "it's always someone else's fault" mentality drives me up a wall. I've played basketball with dudes that blame the pass for the bad shot that they took, or guys that blame the umpire for them popping out. No. It was the first pitch of the at-bat, Buster. You are not the almighty Kimosabi. That ain't how it works! Almost lost my cool there. So, anyways, I don't like that the first guy to go on a failing team is the coach. The coach for the Patriots, Gerard Mayo, I think I said his name right, and the coach for the Raiders, Antonio Pierce, got fired after one full season. How is that team failing his fault? He hasn't even had time to make an impact. Why are all executives expecting their coach to make an instant positive change in the franchise? That doesn't happen normally. There are those rare occasions where a guy comes in and immediately has success. Take Stephen Vogt, for example. He came to the Guardians as a head coach this year and helped take the Guardians the farthest they've gone in the playoffs since 2016. I know, that's a scary year for Guardians fans. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. I mean, imagine if the Lions fired Dan Campbell after his first season when the Lions went 3-13-1. Imagine what football would look like. Now, I also think it's important to remember that the coach isn't the one playing. I think of two big examples for this. The first one is the 2022 Los Angeles Angels, MLB. They started off the season 27-17, then hit a 12-game losing streak, taking them to 27-29. In response, they fired their manager, Joe Maddon. Yes, I understand that losing streak went on for a couple more games, but Joe Maddon was fired after the 12th loss. Here's one of the many issues with this. First of all, Joe Maddon was in his second year of being the head coach at Los Angeles Angels, not including the COVID season. He only got one full 162-game season to be the coach before he was fired after 56 games in 2022. Second, this wasn't even the worst start after 56 games for Joe Maddon and the Angels. That was 2021, the year before that. Third of all, Phil Nevin, who came in to replace Maddon when he was fired, finished his term with a worse win percentage. And fourth of all, the most important reason this makes me angry. This team had Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout in this 12-game stretch where they lost 12 games in a row that Joe Maddon was fired after. Shohei hit an impressive 7 of 39. That, my friends, is a 179 batting average. Oh, but Lucas, maybe he produced in those 7 hits. He only had 4 RBIs. Mike Trout had a staggering 114 average, hitting 5 for 44, also with 4 RBIs. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but last time I checked, the manager of a team isn't the one out there hitting the ball. How could Shohei's 179 and Mike Trout's 114 been Joe Maddon's fault? How is it Joe Maddon's fault that 2 of the best players in baseball at the time, along with the rest of the team, couldn't hit the freaking ball? Next is Dan Campbell again. Last year, the Lions made it all the way to the championship round of the playoffs. Dan Campbell made the Dan Campbell call of going for it on 4th down probably 5 or 6 times. The Lions never converted, if I'm remembering correctly, and they would end up losing that game, being eliminated from the playoffs. Immediately, and I mean immediately following this, people online went berserk with the idea that the Lions should fire Dan Campbell. And something I and my dad thought instantly is, what about the drop passes on those 4th downs? I get it. Going for it on 4th down is a risky and sometimes stupid maneuver, but as a player, you have to execute. The ball can't be in your arms and in your chest and in your hands and you not execute. It's not Dan Campbell's fault that you dropped the ball. That is your fault. Now, there are absolutely times when a coach has just got to go. When you inherit a decent team, you are expected to keep that team decent, but mostly you're expected to improve them. Obviously, it won't happen instantly, but if you don't do that, I think it's right that you get fired. give them time to possibly fix it. But if it doesn't happen after 3, 4, maybe 5 years, depending on the status of the team, then I think it's okay to fire them. Maybe there's a crucial moment in a game, like, I don't know, let me just make one up off the top of my head. Let's pretend it's 31 seconds left on a running clock in the fourth quarter of a tie game against a divisional rival that would give hope to a franchise that has struggled for a very long time if you won, and you've had control of them for 2.5 years now, and just to make this hypothetical even more improbable, we'll say it's on Thanksgiving. If you, with 2 timeouts, don't call that timeout to let your guys recover and think of a plan, or maybe kick a field goal, you deserve to get fired because you have shown that you can't handle the pressure. I know that's very specific, and there's no way a boneheaded move like that could ever be made in real life. However, every little thing cannot be put on the coach. The stars need to be held accountable for when they screw up. Whew! This was a long episode, so here's a short outro. Thank you for listening today. I encourage you, as always, to give your thoughts on the matter. Next week, I don't know what I'll talk about. Make sure to follow, share with your friends, and I'll see you next week.